Hello, and welcome to the third house, the heart of the night, subtitled Reflections on Midnight. I'm Shane M. Nygaard, and this is a video in a series about the 12 houses of the Zodiac. If this is the first video you're seeing, I ask that you check out my introduction video to this series, From Sunrise Through Nightfall, for an overview of how I'm reflecting on the houses in this series. Simply, I'm reflecting on the houses in relation to the time of day and the quality of light that time of day brings to our understanding and meaning of each of the 12 houses. As always, I begin with my absolute favorite quote here from psychologist Carl Jung, who said, "Stick with the image." It's my favorite Jung quote because there's just so much to it. Sticking with the image is sticking with the imagination, the imagination. I mean, that's how we look at and perceive things in their broadest context: width, height, depth, breadth. I mean, think holographically. That's sticking with the image. Jung also said, image is psyche. So we see when we're imagining, when we're sticking with the image, we're active in psyche's world. And with psyche as the Greek word for soul, we understand when we're imagining, we're ensouled. And that's huge, especially on point for astrology, which, as we know, is filled with extraordinary imagery. When we stick with the images, our astrology is ensouled. And we have multiple images and perspectives from which to understand the houses. And for the third house, it's been named self-expression. It deals with themes around thought and communication. It's referred to as Thea, or more familiarly, goddess. It deals with siblings, and it's medically associated with the lungs, oxygen, and the neck. It's our neighborhood, which also connects it with short distance travel. This covers a lot, but I'll get into a lot more in this video, particularly the goddess designation. So to touch on the imagery associated with the time of day and the quality of light at that time of day, if we divide the houses equally into 2-hour blocks, the 12 houses make for a 24-hour day. Through this lens, the ascendant is sunrise at 6 a.m., and the day progresses clockwise. Thus, the third house signifies midnight to 2 a.m., what I have come to call the heart of the night. So as considered in my fourth house video titled Beim Schlafengehen, that is the time we typically close our eyes and fall asleep. Thus, the third house is a house where we are sleeping and dreaming, activities dear to the night and its symbolism, and as we'll see, the human imagination. It's in these houses under the horizon, broadly referred to as the night houses, we consider again the quote in my introduction video from archetypal psychologist James Hillman from his The Dream and the Underworld book. What one knows about life may not be relevant for what is below life. For in the underworld, all is stripped away and life is upside down. What does that mean, though? Life is upside down? Imagine the 12 houses surrounding us here on Earth, with the Earth as our centerpiece, as usual. So in this view, our daytime orientation is where we're standing right side up. Then consider the polar opposite, the third house, where our perspective becomes inverted, i.e., upside down. It's a different perspective, or maybe better said, a different orientation to life, and may not be relevant to our day perspective. And this makes all the difference in the world, as we'll see. So compare midnight to its polar opposite, which is high noon, which that's the point between the 10th and the 9th houses. So in this series, I'm still recording my 10th house video, but I'm working with the title Showdown at High Noon, or alternately, it might end up as Clear as Day. Look for that one soon. But in this model, the day houses tend toward clarity, reality, and facts and evidence, because the sun is there, you see, everything is visible. But here, we're at midnight, the polar opposite, and upside down from high noon. Midnight is the deepest part of night, and perhaps the deepest part of the psyche, as it's near the IC. This is the world of the goddess, the world of fantasy, imagination, wishes, and dreams, which fill these hours in their descending directionality and their depths. Which is where we can imagine Hellenistic astrologers naming this house goddess, though often associated with the moon, as the third house is the joy of the moon. This house gets connected with lunar goddess mythologies. But really, as one of the two houses on either side of the IC, at the midnight hour, I'm not fully satisfied with the lunar goddess associations. I'm not denying them, but I feel there's just so much more. Therefore, in this exploration, I associate the goddess referred to in this house as Nyx, the goddess of night. Remember, Nyx's world is indeed a different world than that of the intellectual, rational, linear, light-bringing Apollo from the day houses and day logic. Nyx does not concern herself with the material, visible world, but she instead brings out the inner world of fantasy and imagination. When you wish upon a star, you're in Nyx's world. And as Giambattista Vico explains in his The New Science, the weaker its power of reasoning, the more vigorous the human imagination grows. And Nyx's world is removed from reason, thus vigorously imaginative. She has no contact with the daytime world, as Dr. Ruben Naiman explains in his book Healing Night. She is nocturnal, dwelling in the underworld by day and emerging at dusk to unveil the night. In a black, star-studded gown, she traversed the sky, darkening and cooling the planet in preparation for slumber. If we imagine houses 6 through 1 as the night houses, and holy as the body of night, the IC is the heart of the night, the centerpiece, the heart of Nyx. So let's better understand this through 3 chart examples to emphasize the various ways we can hear the heart of Nyx, the heart of the night beating within. This first chart is that of the late opera legend and goddess incarnate Jessye Norman, with Sun in Virgo and Jupiter, Neptune, and Chiron all conjunct in Libra, all in her third house. Goddess indeed. Norman embodied the goddess archetype. She was larger than life. She was worshipped around the world. And that voice of seemingly beyond this earthly reality, that voice once described by New York Times writer Edward Rothstein as, quote, a grand mansion of sound. It defines an extraordinary space. It has enormous dimensions reaching backward and upward. It opens onto unexpected vistas. It contains sunlit rooms, narrow passageways, cavernous halls. I mean, certainly, this is Neptune, Jupiter, exactly conjunct in Libra in her third house. But it can't be denied this placement is in the house of the goddess. If I may go on a short trip down memory lane here, I first heard and saw Jessye in her PBS broadcast with Kathleen Battle of Spirituals in Concert back in the early 1990s. It was really paradigm shifting for me to experience her even through just the television. And I remember too watching her televised center stage performance of Faster, Higher, Stronger to close the opening ceremony of the 1996 Olympics. She sang of fires lighting every soul, casting pain aside, and hearing the cheers from thousands of years. I mean, somehow, I imagine only a goddess could invoke cheers from millennia past. The song culminated in her grand declaration, "The games have now begun." And it seemed every Olympian was blessed by a visiting goddess and gifted more speed, more height, and more strength just by being in her presence. She was extraordinary. Again, this is goddess energy. So more practically, with the third house significations, including the house of early education, and at the midnight hours, the house of dreaming, listen to how Ms. Norman talks about the connection between early education and dreams. There's a link below in the description of this video. It's queued up to the starting point of this particular clip from the BBC's HARDtalk with Stephen Sakur. And so it lasts about a minute and 12 seconds, I believe, if I remember correctly. So pause here, go visit that interview clip, and then come back. Okay, I love this interview because it's about the importance of having space to dream from a young age and imagine the future. And this is coming from somebody with significant placements in the house that's at the time of dreams. And the quote that she ends with in that clip is so incredible. "My thoughts about what my life could be were certainly not limited to what the circumstances of my life were." She could dream and imagine, and her life became in part about becoming all these fantastical people of opera: Sieglinde, Elizabeth, Cassandra, Madame Ledoine, Emilia Marti. I mean, just extraordinary and such memorable roles and performances. So with this house and with this example, it's very much the dreams and fantasy into reality idea that can be exceptional for planets in this house. But we can also see the opposite, where reality is turned into dreams. And it's nowhere clearer than in the works of horror fantasy author and artist Clive Barker, with Sun, Saturn, Mercury, and Neptune all in his third house, beating to the heart of Nyx. Barker's works include dozens of short stories and novels, movies, and an array of paintings and graphic novels, each woven with the threads of night. I mean, really, you don't see these folks walking around Target or Walmart at 2 in the afternoon. So to understand Barker's works from this perspective in this house, consider James Hillman's description of dreams again from his book, The Dream and the Underworld. He says, each dream is a child of night, affiliated closely with sleep and death, and with forgetting, lethe, all that the daily world remembers. The third house is the time of dreams. And when dreams forget what we know of the daily, of the day world, it opens up infinite possibilities. As we find in Barker's film Nightbreed, about a forgotten underworld tribe of monsters and shapeshifters with supernatural abilities living below a cemetery, i.e., below that horizon line, that world of Nyx. In Nightbreed, one of the main characters, Lori, a day-dwelling human, enters the world of the Nightbreed and is caught off guard by what she sees around her. Rachel, seen here, a Nightbreed, explains to disoriented Lori.
You still don't understand. You're below now, with the Nightbreed. The last survivors of the great tribes.
Okay, tribes of what?
We're shapeshifters, freaks. Remains of races that your tribe have almost driven to extinction.
So you're not immortal?
Far from it. The sun can kill some of us. Like Babette, some of us can be shot down. Others can survive that because they've gone beyond death.
This is too weird.
To be able to fly? To be smoke? Or a wolf? To know the night and live in it forever. That's not so bad. You call us monsters, but when you dream of flying and changing and living without death.
To the day world view, that upright world above the horizon, the imagination of the nocturnal world can mirror Lori's reaction. This is too weird. It seems upside down. But in the house of the goddess, the weird and fantastical can be just the beginning. And lastly, just because Barker also had Neptune in his third house, and to be clear, this isn't just about Neptune, it's about that goddess imaginative quality of the third house here. We'll look at Mary Shelley's chart to help us further understand this house. She has Sun Uranus and also Mercury, all in Virgo in her third house. With her dream world imagination filled with a Uranian vision, a vision grounded in technology, electricity, genius, and science, is it any wonder she crafted what is considered the first science fiction book? Frankenstein, the story of scientist Victor Frankenstein, who succeeded in sewing and stitching together and imbuing the spark of life, hello Uranus, into a being of his own creation. However, his creation did not respond as he imagined, but was a monster, who was then rejected by Victor and by mankind in general. I mean, academia debates over the whole idea of the spark of life that animates Frankenstein's monster. I mean, it might have been electricity, but might it have been the bonus daimon associated with the 11th house, and the 11th house correlating in modern times with Uranus? I mean, could that be any more Uranian? And Shelley brought out one of the most profound lessons of our time about pursuing our boundless dreams. Quote, "Learn from me, if not by my precepts, at least by my example, how dangerous is the acquirement of knowledge, and how much happier that man is who believes his native town to be his world, than he who aspires to become greater than his nature will allow. But really, in the house of the goddess, the heart of the night, we are indeed free to imagine and to dream about becoming greater than our nature will allow, to become anything imaginable. But perhaps the goddess, through Mary Shelley, is also providing caution. So thank you for tuning in to my reflections on the midnight hours of the third house. What did you think? Comment below, subscribe, and tune in to my other videos for more reflections on the houses and in time, the planets and the signs and other astrological musings and reflections. Cheers.